Good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Thursday. Happy Throwback Thursday to one and to all. Perhaps it is Friday, depending upon where you are on the globe. This is not going to be a long live. However, I do want to discuss the somber mood in the Washington, D.C. area. Many of you by now should have heard the story about the collision that occurred at approximately 9 o'clock p.m. January the 29th. Now, details are still going in, and there is an ongoing investigation. What I can tell you from what I've read and dissected, there was a plane that left Wichita, Kansas, and many on that plane were figure skaters. According to news reports. So, before I go any further, I would like to say to please, especially with this case, because I'm sure, I'm almost positive it's going to turn into a case. You conduct your own independent, thorough, meticulous research and uncover every stone possible. Basically, ask questions. Ascertain the protocol. And I'm going to put some things up shortly, but I wanted to get through this first. So, according to news reports, approximately 64 people were on a plane that departed from Wichita, Kansas. And according to the news, I do not know if there is any significance to this particular portion or not, but many news outlets highlighted that there were two world champion Russian figure skaters on that plane heading towards Washington, D.C., Reagan Airport. Prior to them landing at runway 33, they collided, according to reports, with an Army helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter. Good morning, Donnie. Good morning, mine. Let me grab these really quickly. And thank you, member mine. Good morning to you. Good morning, Anita. How are you? I am doing well, mine. Thank you. Thank you so much to the members and those that are listening, and to those who may catch the replay. Good morning, Donnie. How are you? And good morning, Susanna. How are you? So, and Anna Lynn, how are you doing? Good to see you. Oh, thank you, mine. So, the Black Hawk helicopter, according to reports, was on a training mission. Now, you can Google because there are plenty of videos out there that purportedly shows the actual collision. I'm not going to show that. You all can do that on your own and make your own conclusions. Again, this is horrific, but I have some questions. Yesterday I did a couple of videos, and one of the very first things that I said, and you can go back and listen, I said, This is a beautiful, clear, and oddly, operative word, oddly, temperature friendly day. There were many people that did not have jackets on later towards the day. Earmark that statement because you may have to refer to that at a later time. Today is also very picturesque and temperature friendly. Now, the questions that I have, number one, how in the world did this Black Hawk helicopter, according to reports, not see this aircraft? And there has been several different reports as it relates to recovery efforts. And unfortunately, there have been reports as to many casualties, which is very, very sad and unfortunate. So, with that, my heartfelt prayers and condolences to all of the victims, their families, and loved ones. Now, this Black Hawk helicopter, according to reports, was stationed and came out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Any of you from this area knows that Fort Belvoir is just down Route 1, Route 1 South, as a matter of fact. Not too far from DC, not too far from DC at all. So again, my question, first question is, that time of night, and I must preface this by saying last night was extremely clear. You could see many stars, many, many stars. So again, if anyone, if anyone tries to, and I don't think, well, I can't say that because we don't know, but in the event that an attempt is made to point fingers at weather conditions, you can take that off the table. You can Google the weather conditions of last evening, again, January the 29th, 2025, in the DC area. Clear as clear can be. So, again, if there's an attempt to point fingers at weather conditions, that would not be accurate, in my opinion. Next, according to research, and again, I implore you to do your own, there are certain protocols set in place. Now, whether they're followed or not, I don't know. But there are protocols set in place for incidents such as these. And I'm going to put up one. After an incident such as this in Washington, D.C., the response includes evacuating, operative word here, evacuating. Do you know how many buildings, hotels are nearby Reagan National Airport? Do you know that the Pentagon is in close proximity of Reagan National Airport. There are businesses near Reagan National Airport. I'm not saying there were no calls for evacuations. I haven't seen any reports. Again, I could have missed it. And these were just questions that I had. Because again, this is still ongoing. It is fresh. I don't recall hearing anything. If someone else did, please let me know. But for now, I don't recall hearing anything. And that's very important. Helicopters and dive teams search the crash site in the river. Again, this is the Potomac River we're speaking about. A recovery center is set up to receive remains. Then we have the FAA and the NTSB to launch their investigations. Hopefully, you all were able to see that. Thank you, Mind, for hanging in there. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos that I took live because I am in this area. That was the Pentagon. Now that was a short clip, so let me put it on a loop a little bit. Now the interesting thing about that is, number one, look how close I was to the Pentagon. And because this involved a military aircraft, meaning the Black Hawk helicopter that came out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the Pentagon is in Virginia. Again, look how close I was from my optics, unless it was around the other side. I didn't see a presence and or an influx of news cameras nor reporters. And I'm only showing this to try to get people to understand sometimes the media will show you certain things, but unless you actually have boots to the ground and are nearby, you may see something different. And again, look how close I was to the Pentagon. I literally could have parked where I was and walked to that side of the Pentagon. And again, for my optics, at least at that time, I'll put it that way to be fair, I saw no influx of any reporters or news crews whatsoever, nor any police presence whatsoever, at least again from that vantage. Next, Now that was heading towards DC, and you could see the monument on the left-hand side. Again, these skies, and I purposely made sure I was able to catch the skies. There was no helicopters, none. Now, there are some that could say, well, all of these search and rescue responders are already on site. That is a plausible argument, but if you are working all night in what I've seen some reports say, in frigid cold temperatures, I would, I, and this is just my opinion, would expect that you would have others come in to relieve you or to assist. You did not see that. Hey there, Hood TMZ. How are you and how do you feel about this collision in Washington, D.C.? A passenger aircraft, a subsidiary of American Airlines, that collided, as it's been reported, with a military helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter. I'll show you another video. And that was short, so let me loop that just so you all can get an idea from an outsider, so to speak, even though I'm here in the DMV. So again, extremely clear skies with no, at that time, again, this is my reporting at the time I was there, and that was around 8 this morning. No helicopters. Now, I can say this, all of the entrances to Reagan National Airport were closed. But as I drove by, I did see some emergency responders. But for this type of incident, again, these are just my opinions, I would have expected to see more. The CEO of American Airlines released a report around 7 a.m. and he gave his condolences and is also seeking answers as to what happened and plans to be here. Respectfully to the CEO, this occurred last night, the latter part of the 8 p.m. hour into 9 o'clock. Quite personally, you should have been here last night. No excuses. You're the CEO. And because there were fears of casualties and confirmed casualties and an operation that turned into a recovery operation. You should have been here last night. Next. And I'm just showing you different pieces of video and how clear everything looks. And I'm going to show you this video again. It's 52 seconds, but this is going towards DC, where you can see the monument. Again, all of these things are in close proximity to Virginia, to the monument, to the Capitol. So yes, I have an abundance of questions. And I do not want my audience or anyone who takes what the media tries to feed you at face value. Because again, I just placed up the protocols. And again, I am not sure, but I would like to know if there were any evacuation orders set out. Because you have, as I mentioned, several buildings adjacent to that collision site. Ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that. Ask questions. Here's this video again. Pay attention. Okay, that was my trip from another angle, coming from Virginia, going into DC. Again, you can see the monument on the left-hand side. Hope you feel better, Boss Joes. Hey there, Sanjay. Hey there, DJ Is. Who else came in here? We're talking about the horrific collision in Washington, D.C. Hey there, Pinkies. Where I live. Hey there, Ronak. How are you? Where I live. And according to reports, there was a passenger plane carrying 64 people, four inclusive of the, excuse me, the pilot and that crew, and also the passengers. Again, according to reports, there were two Russian world champion figure skaters on that plane. So you may see reports where the figure skating world is very upset and also in a somber mood as it relates to this accident. Again, the plane that departed Wichita, Kansas, en route to Washington, D.C. by way of Reagan National Airport collided, according to reports, with, hey there, Kushi, how are you? An Army helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter, according to reports, on a training mission. Again, this Black Hawk helicopter out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Again, not too far. I'm going to say perhaps 20 minutes from the collision site. Last report stated that this is now a recovery mission. There have been also reports that there may have been some survivors. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, Seeing as though the location after this accident was over was the Potomac River, and it was below freezing during the midnight hours. I do believe anything is possible, but until there is actual confirmation, I cannot say whether or not there have been any survivors or not. But as I said, there are questions that I have, and I'm interested in going back and listening to the press conferences. And again, all I'm saying is ask questions because, again, from my optics, number one, was that helicopter even supposed to be in that area? And if so, let's just say, let's just say they had authorization. How do you not see that passenger flight in that clear sky? And anyone from Washington, D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, if you were out last night, the skies were clear. Picture perfect, clear. So again, I keep in mind what I'm saying. I cannot and will not accept anyone that says, well, it could be the visibility. No, not as far as weather is concerned. Absolutely not. Again, Google if you must, for those of you not in the area. Google the weather conditions, the visibility for Washington, D.C., the night of January 29th, 2025, from, I'll just say, 8 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. And let me know if you see anything that indicates fog, rain, snow, high winds, anything that could have led to this collision. I'm going to let you know right now because I do want people that have a vested interest in this particular story. You're not going to find that because simply those conditions did not exist. I just provided you real time video that I took this morning around 8. as I was in the area just to see. And this is something that I do often because, again, not all media will provide what they'd like. Hey there, Lucy Warren's World. How are you? But you do have some that will. And because this is my hometown, I wanted to look and see for myself. And I'm going to go on record as saying, and it's piggybacking just a little bit off of President Trump, who did make a comment that I did see. This could have been prevented. I have to agree with that 100%. Again, I am going to go back to the conditions. Why did the training aircraft, which was the Black Hawk helicopter, go on a mission at approximately 9 p.m.? Not to say that they don't, but I would like to know how many missions have taken place around that time in the past or in the recent months or years. What was the experience level of those on the helicopter, the military helicopter? If you're going to launch an investigation, then it needs to be thorough. And that goes for the crew on the passenger flight as well. This is a very, very, very unfortunate incident that has occurred here in the nation's capital. We do know that RFK was grilled, in my opinion, and others during his confirmation hearing. Not to say that has anything to do with this whatsoever, but we have we've had a lot of activity here. And I was on a live stream yesterday and I said this exact same thing. We have a lot of things going on here in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to also say this. Again, these are simply my opinions. Number one, those of you that know me know I'm not a believer, or I am not one who subscribes to coincidence. I just don't. Do accidents happen? Absolutely, they do. But I find it, as it relates to timing, very odd, bizarre. I would even say eerie that with all of the images, and keep in mind, I said images of these mass incidents. I'll put it that way. And we've seen a plethora of those on a daily. And we had tragedy on our home soil. I understand wholeheartedly and agree that when you break the law, there are consequences. And I do not want this to morph into a political diatribe, but you have citizens who commit crimes daily against the government, even though they may be small in the eyes of some, they're still crimes. You have many people that don't work. They're willing, no, they're able bodied and absolutely can work, but some rely on the government to take care of them and their families. There are many that know the system and take advantage of it. There are some that have relatives in social services offices that have made it possible for them to receive certain benefits, not because they were eligible on their own, but because of the assistance of their relatives. There are people on this application and all that are guilty of that. There are people who, in my opinion, pad, embellish claims so that they can receive assistance. There are people on this app and off of this app that are guilty of that. I wonder, and this is just me speaking out loud, if those individuals are going to be targeted as every other criminal because that's stealing from the government and that's a crime. And let's not talk about these PPP loans. I wonder if those are going to be revisited. See, there's a lot of things that I could say and exhume, but this is not the time for that. I'm just putting that out there when we want to talk about criminals, because by the logic of many, if you break the law, you are considered a criminal. We have politicians that break the law. and have broken the law, yet they still remain seated in their positions. Are they given a pass because of their titles? Or is it more to it than that? I would implore you all to pay close attention. And I already said this, and I wish I could have this person on three-way, but I specifically said a couple of weeks ago something was going to happen in DC before the end of the month was out. And unfortunately, it did. I had no idea it was going to be to this magnitude. But again, I still have questions to this. So let me put these things up again so you can just, again, if you're interested, ask questions. Always ask questions. Whether or not this is mandatory protocol, I cannot tell you, but this is supposed to be the guide. I don't know whether it's been modified or not, but it makes sense to me that this should be a blueprint for any situation. Evacuation. Evacuation. We've heard reporters and governors and high level officials declare an area fit for evacuation as it relates to weather events. We saw that several times last year. Now, those of you familiar with flights, flights, especially red eyes, are extremely late. How many other flights were slated to enter Washington, D.C. by way of Reagan National Airport? Was this Black Hawk helicopter training mission the only one scheduled? Was it scheduled? Was it an impromptu training exercise? And these are just questions that's in my mind, my unique, beautiful mind that does not accept what everyone will tell you. I need to ask, I need to see for myself. Helicopters, again, dive teams. I showed you three different videos. Again, a clear, picturesque sky with no helicopters in sight. Again, if you have crews that are working all night long, I would think, and this is just again my opinion, that others would come to help relieve you. Perhaps they did on another side. You still should have been able to hear the sounds of the helicopters, just as we heard and saw the sounds of the military, of these drones that were headline news. Again, my heartfelt prayers, condolences for all of the victims, families, and loved ones. And it is my hope that transparency during this investigation, during this inquiry, will be presented to not only the American public, those who are watching from abroad. Thank you to those that have tuned in and to those who may catch the replay. Remember, as I close, there's always three sides to a story. If you truly want to know, and if you have the means, sometimes it's best, again, if possible, to go see for yourself. Now, as I said, there are many areas that, for obvious reasons, were blocked off. Hey there, Ninja Drew, how are you? Good morning. But I was able to see an area for first responders, and to me, it should have been more. Hey, Joy, I am doing well. How are you doing? And Sanjay, I see you as well. So, again, pay attention. Never discredit what's being presented to you, but at the same time, keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. And again, ask questions. Ask relevant questions. Again, one of the major questions I would ask. And again, it could have been, I just haven't heard it. So again, I could be off. I have been before, and I will continue to be. I'm human, but I know what I saw this morning. I know what I filmed this morning. I know what I did not see in the skies nor hear in the skies this morning while I was in Virginia, heading towards Washington, D.C., while I was 50 feet away from the Pentagon. And from that video, you didn't see any law enforcement there. Everyone, enjoy your Thursday and please send a quiet prayer to the victims of this horrible, horrible accident. And I'm just going to say accident because that's how it's being reported and presented to the public that occurred near the nation's capital last night, Wednesday, January the 29th, 2025, at approximately 9 o'clock p.m., where it appears that an Army helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter, reportedly on a training mission, collided with a PSA passenger aircraft carrying 60 passengers and a four-member crew. Collided. Two of those passengers, according to reports, were members of the Russian figure skating team. Again, this flight left from Wichita, Kansas, en route to Washington, D.C., Reagan Airport, where the collision took place. There have been reports that it appears there have been no survivors. There are other reports that are saying there could be. We don't know yet. And to be quite honest, we may never know. Everyone, please be safe, be well, and you know the rest. Be healthier. Until next video, bye bye for now.